As of the published date of this episode, I am an associate of Ulta Beauty. The ideas and thoughts represented here are my own and not that of my employer. Thank you for tuning in to the Emerging Beauty Podcast. This podcast offers actionable insights and strategies to help emerging beauty brands scale from $0 to $20 million using retail opportunities as a key aspect for growth. I'm your host, Monique Benoit, and every episode I sit down with founders or other retail experts or enthusiasts to talk about different strategies to help emerging brands that are in the trenches today, or for those that love beauty and love retail and want to hear what's buzzing for emerging beauty brands. For today's episode, I got a chance to sit down and talk with April Showers, co-founder of AfroUnicorn. Here's a snippet from our conversation.
That's how it happened. That's how I got my first stuffy. Someone from England was like, can you make a stuffy for my child? And I was like, okay, let me figure out how to make stuffies. So that's how it becomes a lifestyle brand. But to answer the question, a lifestyle brand has to have a movement behind it. This unicorn gives you something that you're identifying with. That's part of who you are. When we rock these unicorns, we are just embodied on a whole nother level. And so I think when you're creating a lifestyle brand, it's something that represents who you are.
Now, let me tell you a little bit more about April, y'all. April carries many titles and many hats. She is, of course, the founder of AfroUnicorn. She is also a mother to 2 young boys. She also owns and operates a State Farm agency and is a licensed real estate broker. Now, she is clearly a busy woman, y'all, but the reason why she came onto the podcast today is because she is the first Black woman to have a licensed brand character in major retail. If you haven't heard of AfroUnicorn, it's an absolutely fabulous lifestyle brand that is all about supporting individuality and living your very best life. I got a chance to sit down and talk to April about how she leveraged her AfroUnicorn license to enter into retail and specifically the beauty industry. It's a fantastic story about how you might be able to get into retail leveraging licensing, but also talking about the power of a brand. Through the message that April built behind AfroUnicorn, she was able to create true community that led her to her success on retail shelves. I'm super excited for y'all to hear what we talked about today. But before we get into the show, we'll hear a brief thank you from our sponsor, and then we'll get right into the episode. I'd like to take a moment to thank the sponsor for the Scaling Emerging Beauty podcast, the Emerson Group. Through their support, we're able to continue to talk to industry experts to provide early stage brands with strategies and tactical insights on what they can do to help their business grow better. Thank you again to the Emerson Group for their continued support. And let's go ahead and continue with the show. I am so excited to have you on the podcast today because I think as a mom of 4 girls, we have AfroUnicorn products in our house. We have bows, we have, nightgowns, all the things. And for those who might not be aware of AfroUnicorn, I would love for you to just start off and just give us an idea of what AfroUnicorn is, and we'll get into how this is tied into beauty, I promise. But just first, let us know what AfroUnicorn is, April.
Okay, so AfroUnicorn is a lifestyle brand to remind women and children of color how unique, divine, and magical we truly are. When I say lifestyle brand, think of Hello Kitty. I say AfroUnicorn is the modern day Hello Kitty. So like you mentioned that your children have bowls and pajamas, we literally have a lot of products. We're literally in everything, or at least trying to be. We have about 25 different categories, everything from apparel to hair accessories to luggage, back to school. We're in consumables. We have fruit snacks. We have cakes. We have swim toys. We have books. I'm an author of now 6 books are out with Random House, and 2 books are coming out with Andrews McNeil, which is my graphic novel book that's coming. And we also have a beauty line, which is Magical Tresses. We have a hair care line. So we are in every space that you could possibly think of. We just launched on Roblox. We are a brand. We are a lifestyle lifestyle brand. So anything that you do with your life, we want you to be able to do it with Afro Unicorn.
That's so cool. And I very much understand licensing because even though I've had a good stint in retail buying, if you didn't know, April, I was a retail buyer at Target for a number of years. And so I bought products in the wellness space. I also bought products in stationery that has a ton of licensed product. So I very much understand how licensed product works. You have what we would call a quote, an evergreen license. So like a Minnie Mouse, like one of those things that you put on a thing and people will buy it, whether you are 4 years old or, 54 years old. So it sounds like your brand is very much a license like that.
Correct.
I would love to learn what made you break into the beauty industry. A lot of the folks that are the core audience here are folks that are in the beauty industry. They're launching products, they're launching brands. And I wanted to have you come on here to talk about your license because I thought it was a very interesting angle in how you can really enter the retail space. And so what made you decide to break into beauty? And then I'd also love to understand more about the strategy. And we might have to take some time to get to the second question, but I'm curious about the strategy in terms of how you approach Afro Unicorn first in terms of a category to say, now I'm going to enter beauty. Was there levels to it? How did you think through it? Would love to just hear how you got there.
So much like how Afro Unicorn got into retail, we got into the beauty space because both the buyer at Walmart and the buyer at CVS sent me an email one day apart and said, can you create a hair care line? So
that's what every brand owner loves to hear, right? So you get that email from the buying teams. And then what do you do next? Did you have connections? How did you go about that? Did you say, I want my beauty product to look specifically like this? Tell us about how you did that, whether that was you, did you hire someone?
So the way that transpired was like, wow. Because I think first I saw CVS's email and I actually did not even see Walmart's email till like a month later. And it was like, I'm pushing this back on the top of your mailbox. Like, you missed us. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I looked at the dates. I'm like, how did they both send me an email one day apart for Magical Wash Day to bring Afro Unicorn to their stores? But I do recall before I went into retail that October 2021, I met with some ladies. I was with Courtney Adelaide. I think that's how you say her last name, from Main Choice. I went to one of her events and everyone at the table, it was a retreat. They automatically just assumed that Afro Unicorn was a hair care line. They all assumed it. They all assumed. And so I'm like, no, actually, I never thought of hair care. Like, never had crossed my mind. They were like, oh. But then I was like, since you said it, like, I'm the type of person that when somebody says something, I believe that it's always destined. Like, if more than one person says the same thing, it's something I need to be leaning into. So from that moment on, I knew that I wanted a hair care line. I was waiting for Courtney to be able to do a collab eventually one day. But the fact that I put it out there that Afro Unicorn is going to have a hair care line, it makes sense the way my life is set up to why these retailers reached out and said, hey, can you create a hair care line? So the first step to answer your question was, okay, I don't know nothing about it, but we're going to figure this out. I'm always going to figure it out. So I reached out to a friend who, well, let me step back. Both retailers gave me their suggestions for manufacturers that I could work with and see if there was any synergies there, right? So we had set up a few meetings. I met with a few of them. Really wasn't clicking with who was presented to me. I said, well, let me do my own work. I reached out to a friend that I knew was in the space. And I didn't know exactly what he did in the space, but I knew he was in the space. So I reached out to him, and it was like a few days before, is it called Cosmoprof?
Cosmoprof, but yes.
Cosmoprof. It was like a Saturday. I called him. He was like, can you be in Vegas on Monday?
I was going to say, was it the Vegas one? Yeah. Wow.
And I said, I'm really an introvert, believe it or not. I know my Instagram page doesn't seem like that, but I am. So I was like, I'm gonna go by myself. I'm used to traveling with a member of my team, but I said, okay, I'm gonna do it. I'm going to go. So I met him at this convention in Vegas, and I think the first night I attended NAACP or some type of event, which was really, really great. Got to meet a lot of Black people in the space. And then from there, we just had a meeting, and we went to dinner. And then he brought someone to me that said, look, we're going to introduce you to a lot of people tomorrow at this event, but we want to know if you would give us the equal opportunity to compete for your business. And they looked like me. And so I'm like, 1000%, because everyone in the licensing space, I would say less than 1% of them look like me. So if you want to take a gamble with me, Afro Unicorn, and try to enter this space, let's see how it can be done. And that's what happened. So that was in July that we met. That they proposed that to me. They went back, they created a whole company for it, and we got together on the terms. So we inked the deal. And then we started to put in the work for the type of ingredients. I'm allergic to every essential oil out there. So a lot, everyone's natural this, natural that, and I love it. It just doesn't work for me. I would completely break out in hives once you start adding essential oils to any products. And I can't sell anything that I don't wear myself or purchase or buy. You see, I'm a walking billboard. So we had to make sure that the product was safe enough for me to wear and use in my hair. And we started developing the product. And then that was July from the conversation. And then we went to retail in September the following year.
Okay, retail the following year. At first, when you said September, I was thinking April. You did all of that in 3 months. So roughly 15 months from going to Cosmoprof, getting that note from the buyers to say, hey, have you ever thought about a hair care line? And that was, what year was that, I guess, when they reached out?
2002.
2022. So 21, you go to a conference with Courtney, founder of Main Choice. Everyone assumes Afro Unicorn is a hair care line. You're like, no, but I guess maybe we should do it. Then manifesting the law of attraction, buyers come to you and are basically like, hey, we'd like this. And then they put you in touch with some folks, but then you don't like that. So you go to Cosmoprof, which is fantastic for those listening. Cosmoprof is a great opportunity for independent brands and bigger brands, but especially indie brands, to display their products. They typically have a floor for new up and coming products or emerging brands. They have a spotlight for a lot of BIPOC owned brands. And they also have a huge floor called Cosmo Pack for brands that are, or for the manufacturers. So for the production side. So it makes sense that you found folks there. And then from there, figured that out, worked through all those details and launched. You being new to beauty, I'm curious, did you bring on any partners, or were there any outside of the manufacturing partner, but did you bring anyone else on board to help you understand what things were important to create a beauty product?
No, the company that I have, I'm very blessed. They have over 50 years of experience in the game, combined experience. So they are the best of the best.
So
they
you
know
picked a
this
partner.
industry. I picked the right partner. And I tell you, I like that can make or break you on partnerships. And I 1000% picked the right partner. We literally just got awarded yesterday. Parent Magazine awarded our shampoo yesterday.
Wow.
So we're already just like we are positioned to really make this one of the largest brands in the world for sure.
Well, congratulations on that. That's awesome.
Thank you.
As you see Afro Unicorn being a brand that spans across categories, and some of the beauty brands that are listening here aren't just about products. They also aspire or really are embodying what it means to be a lifestyle brand. How do you market your products so that, you are conveying a lifestyle. And then how do you figure out what that aesthetic is? I think that's the hardest thing about a lifestyle brand. I'm saying this as someone who worked for one before, but I'm curious how you approach that on the brand side.
I think it's how it was set up. So we set up the brand from day one, even before I knew about licensing, before retail. I set up Afro Unicorn, the same tagline is still in my bio from 2019. I said Afro Unicorn, it's a movement. So when we started the brand, it was just t-shirts, one unicorn, and me finding my tribe, finding those other unicorns. And what I would do is I would highlight what made you unique, divine, and magical and post about you. So let's say you rocked my shirt, you send me a picture or you post, I would talk about, like I say, hey, meet Monique, who works at Target. But did you also know she has this dope podcast? And this is what makes her unique, divine, and magical. Make sure you tap into her podcast and make sure you follow her and do this and that, because this is what's going to keep her staying unique, divine, and magical. Like, that's how we started day one. We started day one with promoting other people and truly creating a movement where people were like, oh, if I rock her shirt, she's going to talk about me. And now I'm learning about this other business. And I learned from you through Afro Unicorn. So now it's like, well, April, I know we got this cute shirt, but do y'all have bags? Because I definitely want a bag with, like, that's how it happened. It happened with everyone hitting me up saying, can we get Afro Unicorn on this? Can we get Afro Unicorn on that? I still haven't got that lady the kite that she wants. It's not that hard. Just haven't really focused on it. That just made me think of it. So now that this conversation focused back on her kite. Because when she said it, I was like, that was the craziest thing ever to me, to think about a kite with Afro Unicorn, but it's really not, because there's character brands with kites all day long. So I'm gonna make it happen for her. But that's how it happened. That's how I got my first stuffy. Like someone from England was like, can you make a stuffy for my child? Like, and I was like, okay, let me figure out how to make stuffies. And so that's how it becomes a lifestyle brand. But to answer the question, a lifestyle brand has to have a movement behind it. This unicorn gives you something that you're identifying with. That's part of who you are. Like, when we rock these unicorns, we are just like embodied on a whole nother level. And so I think when you're creating a lifestyle brand, it's something that represents who you are. Hello Kitty was able to really do that because they represented like a particular niche of people. And then,
wow,
I don't want to go too far, but yeah.
No, I love that. And I very much identify with that. So it sounds like, as a brand, that asking people what makes you unique, divine, and magical, the cool thing about that, and I don't know if you identified that when you first came up with that tagline, is that it actually spans multiple areas. How are you unique, divine, and magical when you show up for work, when you show up with your friends, when you're washing your hair, when you're having a fun day and you're flying a kite, right, with your family, eventually, right? We're going to speak the kite into existence.
I have to.
I'm curious, what made you, or you said a little bit about going into different categories and, you kind of just being tapped for that. Are there particular categories that you like more, let's say, or find are a better fit for the brand, or maybe have a higher affinity? Maybe there's more ability to expand versus others. I'd love to just get your thoughts on that.
So I'm really loving being in the consumable space. So they consider hair care being in that space as well. But then also we have cakes, we have fruit snacks. We're going to the Sweet and Snack Expo next month, because we have lunch pails. So I want everything that can go into a lunch pail. I need it to be Afro Unicorn. We're looking at a pizza company to do some frozen Afro Unicorn pizzas. Like, I just want to, grocery stores have California, the United States, like 50,000 doors of grocery, right? So I want to go where the doors are. I want to go where the people are. I want to go where the doors are. And so people are shopping every day at the grocery store. They may not make it to Walmart and Target, but they're going to make it to the grocery store. And I'm very thankful that we are in about 40,000 grocery stores, because we do have cakes in almost every major grocery store. When you go to the bakery, you flip over the book, you'll be able to order Afro Unicorn cake. And then that has caused us to have in other stores, like I know in Michigan, they have this store called Meyer. And so
Meyer, yeah. It's similar to
Meyer,
a Target and Walmart. I'm in Michigan, so.
Oh, you are? Okay,
Yeah.
so you know Meyer. So yeah, so at Meyer we have books, we have apparel, we have puzzles. So that's the goal. The goal is to be, I just want to be up in the grocery store.
And what's the toughest category that you would say you had to be in?
It's my first category. It's my
Apparel.
baby. Party.
Party. Okay, party.
Party is a difficult category. And it's only a difficult category based off the competition. So people don't really understand that when I say this, they get upset, like, you're not in competition with them. Yes, I am. AfroUnicorn sits on the shelves directly and competes with Nick, Disney, Marvel, DC. Like, those are my direct competitors. My party supplies sit directly next to Disney Princess, Elsa, and Encanto. And then it goes like Batman, Spider-Man, LOL. Like, so that
maybe some Paw Patrol in there for the younger toddlers.
So that is a hard. It's only seven, I think 7 or 8 other characters in there with me.
Yeah, you know,
so that's the hardest one.
That's so interesting that you say that, because when I was in stationery, so again, I told you I did some licensed products. We did have these evergreen brands that would sell really well, and you're right, it was the Minnie Mouse, Frozen, and Minnie Mouse recently really made a comeback, I would say. She kind of like went away for a little bit, but came back. But it's interesting to hear you say that you're going head to head there like that with those national brands. I think a lot of beauty brands off the bat, it's tough because they're competing with so many of these legacy brands. And very similarly, you're competing with them. What do you think is the difference that is drawing people to AfroUnicorn as opposed to selecting these licenses that have been around for years and years and years?
One is something new and organic that's not just being forced on you from Hollywood, but it has a movement behind it. It's a true why. It's a real lifestyle brand. That's why the buyers are buying it. That's what they're saying. Like, we got into this licensing space and retail originally because a buyer found me and reached out. Not just the hair care, like AfroUnicorn got into the retail, got into licensing because Walmart emailed me and asked, can we bring you in for party supplies?
Okay, so let's back up, because I had that originally as my first question, but I said, let's just understand and explain what AfroUnicorn is first. So you are one of the rare but lucky ones that got found. Tell us about how that happened. Where was your brand? And I would love to know how you felt the day that you got that email from that buyer.
So we were doing what I've been doing from day one, which is creating this movement, highlighting other people, spotlighting them, talking about what made them unique, divine, magical. So it became like, it really became a thing to where everyone just wanted to make sure they had a shirt, make sure they got posted. We got likes of Tiffany Haddish from the very beginning. 3 months in, she was rocking AfroUnicorn. Then came Alicia Keys. Then came Sherry Shepherd. Like these A-list celebrities that were like, wow, she's creating this movement. And I was very strategic. Like, and the show is not about that, but just real quick, I would go into the comments, like I'll find people who call themselves Black Unicorn or women entrepreneurs or Black women entrepreneurs. I would say, hey, have you ever seen an Afro-Unicorn before? I created a brand of women of color who hustle, follow the movement. And that they would see that comment, they were like, they click over to the page, they see these beautiful melanated women rocking these Afro-Unicorn shirts, and they're like, oh, that definitely resonates with me. I'm going to follow her. I'm going to tap in. And I have a whole free book about that. It's on my website, IamAprilShowers.com. But I teach you how to get influencers to rock your brand for free in 3 easy steps. But anyway, so we had all these videos. Phaedra Park did a full TikTok dance video with her boys during the pandemic rocking the shirt. And then there was this other little girl, Cassie Brianna. She had a viral video where she said, thank you, it's an afro. When someone said, I love your hair, her response was, thank you, it's an afro. She was rocking an AfroUnicorn shirt. I helped really push that video out, made sure the right people were seeing it and posting it. Everyone posted it, from Viola Davis to Tina Knowles, all the way up to Oprah Daily. And then once Oprah Daily posted it, that's when the Walmart buyer saw in the comments that everyone was saying, that's Afro Unicorn's baby. That's Afro Unicorn's shirt. Look at Afro Unicorn. So then I got the email that said, I think the very next day, Afro Unicorn X Walmart collaboration, would you consider bringing your brand in for party supplies? And I felt amazing because a few minutes before, my son had literally said, well, what about Walmart, Mommy? Why don't you try Walmart?
What a great story. So it sounds like, timing wise, when did you start Afro Unicorn? Because it sounds like some of this also picked up over the pandemic. And I am finding that some of these brands brands that got this attraction over the pandemic got to benefit from the fact that we were at home. And so there were these moments that were amplified. Like, I think about how, I don't know if you watch Love is Blind on Netflix, but that's another one of those things that, like, it came out during the pandemic. It's basically like a dating show on Netflix. But it's huge now at this point. They have like 6 seasons, I think.
Wow.
But the pandemic is one of those things that brought a lot of people together, where it's like, we're all at home, we can watch this together. And so it seems like Afro Unicorn benefited a little bit from the halo effect of people being at home and having community in that way. Is that true? Or would you say that your community started pre-pandemic and it just really continued to build on those solid foundations? And
it started in 2019, prior to the pandemic. We had Tiffany Haddish, Lucy Q, Sherry Shepherd, all these celebrities in 2019 that were onto the brand. We were able to grow, not just because of the pandemic, because of George Floyd and the uprising. Sometimes we tend to forget that that was a very pivotal point in how we do business moving forward, but they're actually reversing it now. So that's a whole nother conversation for a whole nother time. But during that time of George Floyd, and what was happening worldwide during a global pandemic, where the whole world had to pause for 8 minutes and have almost every single nationality around in that scene saying to get off of him, this man cannot breathe. It did something to the mind. Finally, something clicked for the world to say, wait a minute, we're doing something wrong. So your major companies, your NFL, the NBA, your Walmart, your Target, all of them were like, we got to do something different. And so they then decided that they were going to really focus on diversity, inclusion, and equity. I said it backwards, but you know what I mean. So that's what really happened for Afro Unicorn. We were still on a trajectory. I said from day one, 2019, AfroUnicorn will be a household name and a worldwide brand. I always tell people it's not your job to figure out the how it's going to happen. Your job is to see the vision of where you want it to be. And I saw where it was going to be, had no idea that the unfortunate death of George Floyd, with the unfortunate deaths of everyone who died during the pandemic, would actually help in this alchemy journey of the Afro Unicorn. But it actually did, to your point. Everyone was at home. I also own a State Farm agency, right? Nobody wanted to pay their bills. The government was telling y'all didn't have to pay your insurance bills. Y'all didn't have to pay your house bills. So y'all had all this discretionary income that was just sitting there with no place to go. So why not throw on a unicorn shirt and do some TikTok videos so you can feel unique, divine, and magical? So everything just aligned exactly how the universe had planned for it to align, and it came together.
Mm. And timing seems to be such an interesting, I'll say, element to so many brands. I mean, the timing aspect is one of those things that I say I just don't think folks can take for granted, because in some cases, when you say, if Afro Unicorn hadn't launched then, but if it was happening now, would the same thing be true? And for some people, it's like, no. I think that timing actually played a really important role in the momentum or in the acceleration. Mm-hmm. In other cases, it's a matter of, yes, it just would have looked different. But
let me not just put timing. It's timing and preparation.
Yes.
Because even right timing everything that was happening, if Walmart were to reach out to me and I did not have this brand trademarked,
Right. They
I would
wouldn't
have
have been
missed the
able to do
opportunity.
anything. Yes. Yes. So
So being prepared to launch a brand, it's just waiting for the time, and then you're off to the races. But I always say, if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. So I was in position to move because I was ready.
So I'd love to, just as I think of kind of like coming to a close here, I would love to just get your advice to other aspiring entrepreneurs, whether folks are looking to break into the beauty industry or to leverage a license, similar to what you have done, but folks that want to make a meaningful impact. I think the key theme that I'm hearing from you as you talk about Afro Unicorn is not just that this is selling stuff, but that you're really supporting a movement that is highlighting, again, a way of being, a way of presenting yourself. So what advice would you give to other entrepreneurs who are looking to break into the CPG industry and make a meaningful impact?
Well, what you said is A1. So take everything that Monique just said. I'm just going to give you some technical stuff. You got to be consistent. There's no way around it. You will not be able to be successful in anything that you do, especially in business. If you're a lazy employee currently, you're not going to be able to be an awesome entrepreneur. Your work ethic will determine how you end up in this business, point blank, period. If you're not a person that follows through, don't get into this business. If you're not a person that shows up every single day on go, even when you don't feel like it, this isn't for you. A lot of times, and the problem that we have, and we had it in the pandemic, because people were at home. So they were like, this is great. I could just become an entrepreneur and I could launch these brands and businesses, but they had no true worth ethic behind it. And they were not consistent. There's not a lot of brands that are still around that launched during the pandemic that are still thriving today. So make sure you have the right mindset. A lot of times people will do stuff, they'll do it consistently for a short while until they feel like it's not working, and then they'll slack off or they'll stop. I'm very fearful of stopping before the big call, before the breakthrough, before Walmart gives me that email, before CVS reaches out to me, before Target wants to have, I don't ever want to be short of the I don't want to be short of it. So my advice to these entrepreneurs is, look, if you want your weekends off, just stay being a banker, because entrepreneurship, you got to be ready. You got to be ready, and you got to be consistent, and you got to be willing to put in the work. And it's very rewarding when you're doing it for a purpose and a passion, like I am with Afro Unicorn. So know your why. Know the reason why you're getting into it. If you're just getting into it for a buck, the moment you don't make no money, you out of it. I got into this business to help other people realize their dreams. I got into this business so other people can see that they're unique, divine, and magical. So the moment I think about quitting, I'm like, crap. But I got Monique that's watching me. I got Chelsea that's watching me. Like, these people are stepping out on faith because they see what I'm doing. So I can't quit. But if I just got into this for money, I'm like, well, the books, it ain't checking. So I'm deuces, I'm out. So evaluate your why, and then be very, very consistent when you get into this.
Thank you. That is sound advice. And April, as we wrap up, feel free to shout out where people can find you, shout out any socials, and we'll be sure to include that in the show notes, of course.
Thank you. So please tap into the I Am April Showers website if you want more of me. It's a free community. I'm not going to be able to answer all y'all DMs. So I created this community where I can just fill y'all with information there. It's in one place. It's for my magic manifester makers. So that is on I Am April Showers. You can follow me on IG, but don't DM me. I just got a quick question. How do I start a brand? Don't do that. Go over to I Am April Showers for that. But Got April Showers is me on Instagram, and AfroUnicorn _official on Instagram. The website, AfroUnicorn.com.
Thank you so much, April. I'm so glad we were able to have you on the show and hope that your story is inspiring and that it encourages someone today to get started, to keep going. And also, I think you talked a lot about the power in community. And I think that's really the magic behind what you've done with Afro Unicorn. It's really empowering and it shows in, folks, retailers wanting you and asking you to enter new categories. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Monique.
Thank you again to April for joining me on the show. I'm so excited to get her to talk on the show because there are so many different ways that you can scale a beauty brand. And licensing is one area that is near and dear to my heart because that's actually an area that I worked very closely with when I was a retail merchant. I also really loved April's emphasis on the importance of building her brand first. She was able to truly connect with her community and with her audience, and that was ultimately what allowed her to have that success in brick and mortar retail. As always, if you found this episode helpful, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. It helps more people see the podcast. And also, if you found this helpful, share it with a friend or colleague. I'll catch you on the next episode. Bye.